if you actually drive your car every day, it's important to, you know, when you're modding your car, to not go overboard. So I made a lot of changes to my GT3, but 2 mods completely transformed how the car feels on the road. Muffler deletes are fun at first. They get louder for sure, but after a while you realize that louder doesn't always mean better. I actually found an exhaust system that is more insane than straight pipes, but it's still livable. So it's on one end way more exotic, and on the other end it's way more livable at the same time. I'll explain. So I started simple. I deleted 1 muffler on my GT3 just to get a little more sound. It was cool, you know, it sounded good, nothing crazy. It was very easy to live with, but it definitely did not give that exotic tone that I was looking for. So then I went all out. I deleted both mufflers, full straight pipes, OEM headers, so essentially got rid of the 2 side mufflers and the center muffler. Outside it sounded wild, but inside the cabin it just wasn't as enjoyable. Without any mufflers, you know, there was a lot of drone, a lot of resonance in the cabin. Long drives just caused headaches after a while. It wasn't that I didn't like the sound or the volume, but the resonance that you get with straight pipes, especially if it's installed in a certain way, then you really get horrible resonance that is just not livable. There is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. So if you are going to get straight pipes, I will explain, you know, what the actual proper way to do it is to reduce drone. During the install, we noticed why my straight pipe setup felt so harsh. It was mounted directly to the chassis, which meant every vibration turned into cabin noise. This new system is lighter and hangs differently, so a ton of that harshness just disappears because it's not mounted to the chassis. If you think about it, if you mount something to the frame of a car, something like an exhaust, something that vibrates, it's going to vibrate the whole entire cabin. You're going to feel it in the steering wheel, in the seats. Everything just vibrates like crazy. Really, it made driving the car almost feel like a chore in a way, at least from a perspective of daily driving it. That's when it clicked. Straight pipes are loud, but they're not tuned for tone or comfort. Don't get me wrong, if you have a weekend car, or if you have a car that you're just taking to the track, you want to have fun, by all means, go straight pipes. So it's great for short blasts, but it's not really great for, you know, daily life and just dailying the car. So I started looking for something that actually focused on sound quality. Still felt exotic, you know, when you're in the mood for it, but you can also just cruise and it's not too overbearing. I ended up going with a full setup from Acoustic Atelier, sport catted headers, a valved X-pipe, looped side sections, and a wireless valve controller, so I can keep the valves open whenever I want. The GT3, the valves work in a really weird way. It's not in any way you would expect. Essentially, the OEM valve controller, it only really controls the valves when the car is idle. When the car's not idle, it kind of does what it wants to do. So as soon as you start moving, it'll close every single time, no matter if you're in open or closed, and then it'll open back up after a certain period of time, after a certain RPM range. And so really what I wanted is, you know, 2 things. I wanted an exhaust that sounded insane, like absolutely insane when I wanted to, but also it was livable when I wanted it to be. And I wanted to bypass, you know, all the weird kind of valve controller stuff that the OEM system does. The good thing about this new exhaust system that I went with is that there's minimal drone even with the valves open. So you can leave the valves open all the time and it's not a problem. And that made the difference. Instead of sound just like blasting straight out, the design smooths everything out, reduces resonance, and cleans up the tone. So outside, it sounds like a cup car. Like, it sounds so exotic and insane and more refined, and inside it finally feels calm and comfortable, you know, when you want it to. Now talking about the CellSync valve controller, we got that installed, and now I'm able to just leave the valves open at all times. Either open or it goes back to OEM state, which is great. Or if I want to hit, you know, turn them on all the time, I can do that. There's minimal drone, and it just sounds insane at every RPM. So I went from getting rid of 1 muffler, getting rid of both mufflers, to now a full exhaust setup with, you know, full headers and, you know, X-pipe, all that. I finally found the perfect exhaust. The first drive was honestly a surprise. The pitch is smoother, the pops are clean, and the tone just feels way more exotic. And across the whole rev range, there's no buzzing, no headaches, no rattling panels. It just sounds good without beating you up. You know, I feel like I could drive the car all the time and it's not gonna give me a headache. And every friend that gets in the car, it says the same thing. It sounds insane outside, but in the cabin, you don't really feel it. Like you feel it, but it's not like how it was before, where it was just too much, right?
Sounds better though, even though
it sounds better and there's no resonance in the cabin.
Remember when we were talking the other day and we are just like, it sounds like, I don't know, we're like cleaner? Almost. Yeah, it sounds cleaner.
For me, this setup finally does both. It's wild when you want it and comfortable when you need it. It's the best balance I've had so far. So there are two mods that completely changed how my GT3 feels on the roads. So number one is the DSC Controller, and number two is lighter wheels. So let's start with the DSC Controller. This replaces the factory suspension control logic and gives the car way better tuning over bumps, imperfections. So you still get the sharpness of the car, but it feels more compliant on daily roads. The suspension just feels more confident and controlled. The biggest surprise, honestly, was how natural it felt. The car still stays planted and precise when I'm pushing it, but when I'm just cruising, it feels more calm, more comfortable. You know, it feels like the shocks and the springs finally got smarter without having to replace any of the hardware. It kind of makes me think of my Corvette that I had and the Blackwing now, how they have the mag ride suspension. It kind of feels like that. Like you just don't think about it, you know, like it's for the first time since buying the car, I drive it and I don't think about the suspension. And all this without having to replace any of the suspension hardware. This is just a plug and play unit. You replace the OEM suspension control, you know, chip, motherboard, whatever you want to call it, part goes in, and then it's just way smarter about it. The process is pretty involved. You have to remove the carpet in the back. You got to find that chip, and then you can just swap them out. You know, essentially, if your car has a way to firm or soften your suspension, look into and see if there's a way to tune or swap, you know, the suspension control unit, see if that makes a difference for you. But on top of that, I did another thing that I did not expect would result in a more compliant ride, and that is going with lighter wheels. So I went with the CF205 carbon fiber wheels from Forgeline. These wheels are insanely light compared to stock, and when you drop rotating mass, the suspension doesn't have to work as hard to control, you know, the movement. So the result is better responsiveness and way better compliance. The car turns in easier, it changes directions faster, it doesn't fight the road over bumps. The lighter wheels just let the suspension react, you know, instead of resisting every little imperfection. But once both mods were installed, you know, everything started to make sense, right? The DSC controller and the carbon wheels complement each other so well. You know, when you have a system that's dynamic and it's changing the firmness of suspension on the fly, and you have lighter wheels so it's not working as hard, you still get that GT3 confidence and precision, but the everyday ride is smoother and way more comfortable. When you push it, the car feels planted and eager. When you're cruising, it just feels relaxed without losing that connection to the road. Before doing these mods, I didn't fully appreciate how much unsprung mass affects suspension quality. You know, I got lighter wheels in the past, like for my Corvette, and I could immediately feel, you know, things like the handling soften up, right? And I actually didn't feel that quite as much with the GT3. I think the main difference that I felt is actually the suspension quality. You know, that's the number one difference that I could actually tell with this car in particular. I don't know if it's because like the engine's in the back and there's less weight in the front, you know, I don't know what it is, or just because of how light they are, that just ends up being the thing that I notice more. And you know, when it comes to the wheels and how I got them, so I actually found a listing on eBay for these wheels, and they were a gray color, like a gunmetal color. Got the wheels, had them installed. Two things happened. I didn't end up really liking how they looked on the car. I actually prefer black wheels on this car. And I think the lip on the outside of the wheel really throws off the look when they're not black. Like, you kind of want that lip to kind of disappear, but when it's so prominent and it's gray and you kind of see it, and also it's like an off shade from the silver, it just kind of throws everything off. Shipped the wheels out to Forgeline, and they had the best customer service. They were awesome. They told me what all the options are, you know, as far as what do I do? Like, so they inspected the carbon and they determined, you know, there was 2 wheels that needed to get, you know, the barrels redone, re-cleared. So they handle all the logistics there. There's a separate company that handles, you know, the barrels. I got them powder coated in satin black, and I think these wheels will really suit the car. Like, it looks so mean, dude. Yeah, this looks 10 times better. Before I brought them over to get them swapped to black, they were like kind of like almost the same color as the car, maybe a little bit darker.
Oh, okay, like a gunmetal.
Yeah, and I thought I would like it, but once they were on the car, I was like, I don't know. I kind of the black kind of looks good with this car. Yeah, and this looks like complete now. And yeah, I think the car is pretty much perfect now. I don't know what other mods I could get on it to make it, you know, that much better. Yeah, I saw some like little accessories and little things, but I think for now, this car is pretty much perfect. And the next car is the Blackwing, so stay tuned for that one.